doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two. No one knows how hard I tried. I have feelings that I can't explain. Driving me insane.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back to the Pop Culture Chillout.
It's been 2 years. I bet everyone's missed
2
us
years?
so much. All our fans that have
Hello out there.
that are out there.
For all those people that listen.
I think we got 2,000 views on one of
that's not
ours, to be honest. We're trying a new
Format.
We're trying a new style. We're going with the video style just to get our faces in. I'm very excited to get the podcast going.
Yeah.
What a day for it to be.
Oh well,
happening.
we've just done a double bill of Barbenheimer, Barbie, and
Barbenheimer Day.
Oppenheimer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm wearing my Oppenheimer top, black and pink.
After watching both films, I'm like, why did we pick today to do this? It's lots to talk about.
It's a lot. It's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it is a lot. But yeah, we're ready to go. And so as we've said, Oppenheimer, Barbieheimer Day. And we're going to be reviewing Barbie first and Oppenheimer. And then we're going to be talking about bits. And we're going to go for as long as we need to because it's a podcast. We don't have to do anything we don't want to do we?
No, we can
be honest.
We can talk as long. We can talk for England.
Yeah, we're sharing a microphone, which will be sorted out for the next our next interview. But
which will be probably Mission Impossible because we've seen that as well.
Yes, we've seen Mission
Impossible. We'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, we thought there was way too much.
Yeah.
Too much
Kennedy in this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
To handle. So we didn't think we could throw in Tom Cruise running around for 2.5 hours when we've got Ryan Gosling to discuss.
Well, Barbie is directed by Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
Other films that she's directed?
Well, do you want to know a fun fact?
Go on, give me a fun fact.
She actually, you know How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
She was in the pilot for How I Met Your Father, the original spin-off. So they've done a spin-off with Hilary Duff?
Yeah.
Lizzie McGuire on Disney. They originally, straight after How I Met Your Mother, they did a How I Met Your Father pilot, and Greta Gerwig was the main character in it. It didn't get picked up.
Well, Greta Gerwig released a lesser-known film called Nights and Weekends to start off in 2008. She then directed Lady Bird, which was
with Saoirse Ronan,
which was the person I was confusing
that's
with.
That, when
highly
you said
praised.
she was Irish, I was thinking that's not Greta Gerwig.
I know that she wasn't Irish. That filter's not going to stay on, is it?
It
looks sad.
It's fine.
Sorry, I've put us in a little small box because we're about to watch the trailer. But yeah, really highly rated Lady Bird film called Lady Bird. Really highly rated Little Women, released in 2019. She did Dua Lipa's Dance the Night. I suppose that's where the Dua Lipa connection comes in.
Dance the Night, that's the song for the new
Is it a music
for Barbie?
Video? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The
choreography in this film is great.
Yeah, but we haven't started the review yet, mate.
Yeah.
So you're already.
Let's get this trailer on. We can discuss it.
I'm not editing it out. Here's a trailer. Let's take a look, and let's see if
just the teaser. I'm sure
we'll just tease it out. Oh, no, because we don't have the teaser, so that's not going to work. Anyway, here's a trailer. Enjoy. We're going to be reacting to the trailer. Even though we've seen the film.
Just saying, Quentin Tarantino, I'm sure, loves these feet shots.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
With the radio blast and goes cruising just as fast as she can.
Ken vs. Ken rivalry wasn't really called that much in the news.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
One of your favourite scenes.
To do what?
It's fantastic.
I'm actually not sure.
So yeah, that is a little taste of Barbie. If you haven't had a taste, I'm sure everyone that's watched this is probably looking and see that. That's why I thought we wouldn't watch the whole thing. It's got a stacked cast, absolutely stacked cast. Let's not talk about Oppenheimer's cast. I'm not going to be reading that whole cast.
Oppenheimer's cast is next level.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
cameos.
This one just tells me every single person that's in it, not in any sort of kind of order. So, Margot Robbie as Barbie, and we've got
Ryan
Gosling as Ken, and then we've got
you got Helen Mirren as
the narrator, who does has one of the funniest moments
Yeah.
in the film. We have Alan, played by Michael Cera, who does a great job. Just so the woman from Jane the Virgin.
It's not Jane. No,
It's
Ugly
not.
Betty. Ugly Betty.
Ugly Betty.
That's who you get mixed up between
I
the
thought it was
two.
the same character. I
Nah.
thought it was the same person.
No, it's not.
Anyway, yeah, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, who plays weird
America
Barbie.
Ferrera is her name.
America Ferrera. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
sorry.
Ugly Betty. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but America Ferrera's in this.
She's in this, but she's not in Jane the Virgin. That's a different actress.
Oh, did I say Jane the? I
Yeah.
made Ugly Betty. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Sharon Rooney. We have Dua Lipa, who's in it for like a second. These are all the Barbies. Then you get all the Kens. Simu Liu.
He's brilliant.
Kingsley
I think
Benet.
he's absolutely brilliant in the role.
Yeah, Nkuti Gatwa, who's
It's
from
the
Sex
new-
Education.
It's the new Doctor Who.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's going to be in the new Doctor Who.
Scott Evans doesn't do much. John Cena. Is that
He only pops up for like
Ooh.
a minute.
might be a spoiler. No, we'll keep it in. Don't worry.
The guy he's going to be in the new Bob Marley film, and he's the main villain in Secret Invasion, which I think is
right.
absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant in it.
Yeah.
From watching Secret Invasion and this, very versatile actor.
I think actors need to be versatile there.
I know. Well,
Will Ferrell, of course.
Not all actors
playing
are
a-
versatile.
Well, speaking of versatile actors, Will Ferrell playing Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell, yeah.
The synopsis is that Barbie suffers a crisis that leads her to question her world and her existence. Please give me your initial impressions of Barbie.
So I think Ryan Gosling steals the show. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And Margot Robbie is absolutely fantastic in this film, but the thought that comes to mind is The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg, because you've got Mark Wahlberg does such a fantastic understated job in that movie of being the emotional core carrying the film. And because he's so understated, it allows Christian Bale's Dickie, I can't remember the surname, the brother, like steal the show and be really eccentric. And I think it's very similar to this. I think Margot Robbie is so solid and brilliant in her role as Barbie.
Playing the straight.
She plays the straight man to Ryan Gosling's eccentric Ken.
Be careful of the patriarchy, mate. The straight man. She plays the straight woman.
Straight woman. I think she does such a good job in that role that allows Ryan Gosling to be just so ridiculously over the top with King, and you can tell he's loving it. He's absolutely loving the role, and I think the last time I've seen him this funny was The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe, and it's such a brilliant film. So I think he's such a fantastic comedic actor that he's just allowed to. Yeah. I reckon a lot of that is ad lib as well. I think he's.
Well, I think for us personally, I think he is the humorous foil, right? Like anything that comes out of his mouth, or anything, or any of the problems the males have, it's all humor for the audience, and I think that's why we enjoyed his performance so much, is that he was just hilarious all the way through. Whereas Margot Robbie has I wouldn't play her down so much as to say it's just a straight role. I think she has a lot of emotional edge to it,
and a lot of humour.
I'd say that will resonate with a lot of people, and I think not only will it just resonate with the struggle of women, I'd say it resonate the messages that encompass the film resonate with myself and you, with anyone really, in that she's overcoming trauma and problems in her life, and understanding her emotions, and understanding her path in life. And I think that can be appropriate to anyone. I think like there's a speech that where America Ferrera talks about the problems of women. And I'd say, like a lot of the things that are said in there is stuff that I go through, and stuff that we all go through in life. And I think the foil for it being about Ken's battle with the patriarchy, which I think is hilarious, is not the main center point. It's not a political point I think the film is making. I think it's just to push the film forward.
It's definitely to push the plot along.
And it's not. I don't think it's in your face in the same way that I think some of the more other recent films try to portray. Let's say woke culture.
It's very tongue in cheek. It's very tongue in cheek.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even like the way Mattel's set up, and he's like, "Oh, we're very inclusive. We've had two female CEOs in the last, 60 years, and it's pointing,
And of course, that kind of thing still exists.
Making fun
I'd say as a society, I think we've outgrown that, and I think we live in the most equal society. Not perfectly equal, but I think if you made a point earlier, it's like if this film was made 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
We made it on the original pod, but we were on mute. So
yeah. Well,
I made that point.
Thanks for turning us out.
I made that
this is supposed to be
point on the previous one.
This is supposed to be a natural conversation between us that did not happen before.
This is natural.
Like 20 years ago, I think the pertinence of a lot of the stuff, like for example, the catcalling scene, like it was where I started to go, oh gosh, okay, is this a bit forced in that implying that kind of thing happens all the time?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to just be heightened.
Yeah, it's a heightened reality of the experience of women, and it did make me think about when Barbie. I like her inner dialogue when she talks to herself, and she said there are tones of violence in that, and I thought that is that is the experience
in myself.
Yeah, there is. I can only assume that would be not assume. I understand that is the experience that women might feel in those kind of situations, and that I'm glad that it's not as prevalent as it used to be. But I think it calls out those kind of things in a way in which is not kind of telling us off for being misogynists or living in the patriarchy. Makes fun of it, and it makes it humorous. But then also when Barbie's going through issues, it is impactful.
Yeah, and I think it covers. There's a very good. I think it gets the tone right in terms of feels very much like a live action Lego movie in terms of the in terms of like the humor that some of the things that Lego did when the characters move and they go still, and Toy Story and things like that, where like Ken goes surfing and he hits the wave and he just like flies off, or when they're moving, because kids always take their Barbies from the top of the roof and move them down, it makes sense for Barbie just to float down from the top of buildings, because what kids take down the stairs and so on. I think it does such a good job of conveying those ideas, but also I think it does a really good job of conveying the emotional.
It was a rip-roaring start. I love that start. You're talking about the almost handheld nature of
Lizzo.
She's not. Lizzo's like narrating it, and she's drinking, but she's not drinking anything, and she's showering, but there's no water, which is a way more like in the Lego movie. You feel like it's just a film, and then you realize at the end that no spoilers for Lego movie, but at the end it's actually the person who owns the Lego set that is controlling the characters that is leading that, but. It's straight from the off. The implication is there, and that makes it such a solid comedic relief when how they're talking is how someone would talk, who doesn't understand certain adult interactions. For example, as seen in the trailer, when Ken is trying to hit on Barbie and saying like, "Do you want to invite me in?" and she's like, "Why?" and he's like,
"I don't know.
I'm not really sure why that is the case," and I think that's really effective. And I think, we have to go to the real world to force the narration on. I think once we get to the real world, I think it starts to slow down.
Yeah, it lags.
We lose Ken for a bit as well.
Yeah.
We get introduced, and I don't know what it is with Hollywood's at the moment portrayal of teenage girls. But maybe I'm just looking at it from two films' perspectives. One, a film I hated, and this, a film I loved, which is a bit of a spoiler, which is Ant-Man Quantumania. The protagonist of Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie, she's really unlikable.
Very annoying.
And the teenage girl in this film, I'd say she starts off being quite unlikable, and I don't think it's too controversial. I actually think she's quite mean. I think some of the things she said is very intelligent, but she just didn't seem like a nice person.
Yeah.
And the fact that she had like a bodyguard for people to not come and speak to her. And I thought, okay, right, so, but luckily you don't follow that character. That character grows as part of the film.
Yeah.
Whereas in Ant-Man Quantumania, there's no reason for Cassie Lang to not like her father or respect him. You know, there's a real, it's like, oh, you saved the world, like, you're rubbish and kind of thing. But, so, yeah, so, and it was just two scenes that came one after the other. It was like, she comes to the real world, misogyny, like, all this, like, comments and stuff. And then you're like, okay, right, we get that happens, you know, don't throw that in our face. And then she goes to see the person who is her owner. We won't spoil it anymore. And she's a really not awful, but in that scene, she was really mean to Barbie. And you go, okay, we're gonna have to follow this teenager, aren't we? And that doesn't actually manifest itself. But it's purely on Barbie as the main character. But I think
they're doing that to heighten the fact that Barbie, you know, the generalized idea is that Barbies are for small girls, and I think they're trying to heighten, like,
and she represents marketing, consumerism.
Yeah, she represents like teenagers, like, because the point is, like, Barbie's in this world, and she thinks in their world they think Barbie's President Barbie, this and all that, and it's that Barbie in their own little world, they think Barbie's had this huge impact on the real world in terms of. Their view is that Barbie has a has such a wonderful impact on the world, where everyone has inspired girls to be, you know, doctors and presidents and stuff like that, and as Helen Mirren explains at the beginning. And then I think the fact that she comes into real world and they use the teenager as like a hard fallback criticism of the fact that
consumerism, body image,
thinks that Barbie is you know, stereotypical toy for girls and so on, like, and that she's very like a very sexist toy, and I think using the teenager was the tool for that.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we don't want to go. I mean, that's like the first 45 minutes, so it's not spoiling too much. Maybe
but even the way she gets, later. But where I was saying everything's heightened because, like, even Mattel building, the way it is set up and the way the executives chase after her is very comedic and, you know, silly. So I think even the real world that she enters is still a very bizarre real world.
Sure,
the way the people are walking around.
It's
with
an iteration of
outfits.
the world that we live in. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I really like this film. I think you hit the nail on the head, and we can't go into specifics of the film.
No, because
you're very good at spoiling in when we used to do the podcast 2 years ago. But I think that she, I think that I do enjoy filmmakers' view of a world that doesn't represent so specifically what we see day-to-day lives. For example, I've seen one of the trailers is for the new film by Yorgos Lanthimos, who he really puts people off. I think including you. You don't even want to watch his films, but yeah, The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, to less extent, the Favourite, which I don't think represents that too much because it's like a period piece. He creates rules for these social constructs for the world to live in. Like we live in a social construct that if another world exists, right? The other side of the sun, the same distance from the sun to the earth, right? Because you know that on the other side of the sun that we live in, there could be the parameters by which someone could live on a planet, right? They wouldn't have the same social construct we do. That's pretty cool, right?
Talking about the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah. But they wouldn't they wouldn't live the same way we do. Like we are changing and ever we are especially now in 2023, right? Where we're living in a world where the social parameters of everything is changing so much and so drastically all the time. It's interesting how we're constantly questioning what's right and wrong all the time, and what we assume to be appropriate now in 20 years' time is going to be offensive or incorrect. And we have to move with the times, and it's funny how the construct of the world, if filmmakers doing that on purpose, I find it really effective, and I think that's why I didn't feel this was too woke or against men. It was part of the dynamic of world in which the film was created, which is not too distant
I think
from the world today.
Yeah,
but maybe less so than maybe what the world would have looked like 20 years ago.
Also, there's a bit in it which I thought was very on the nose for the time, which like pokes fun at trolls and male trolls in terms of when they make a comment about the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. That cracked me up.
Oh, there were a couple of things in there which were too close to home for me, and I started to question myself. Like, let me play my guitar at you.
Yeah,
it's like
Alex
we won't tell you the context of it, but my
she?
partner. There was a scene in which that kind of thing happens, and my partner literally called me out on it. Which
when it's like basically all the Kens are trying to chat up the Barbies by going, let me play you a song.
I think
on
it was
my
the word.
guitar.
It was the word "at" that I thought was really funny, because "let me play my guitar for you" would be the right kind of word to use, and he goes, "Let me play my guitar at you," because the whole idea is when you're playing music for someone, you're serving them and you're entertaining them.
Yeah.
But when a guy plays his instrument for a girl, he's only looking at the kind of monetary exchange of romance, as opposed to showing his worth. And I thought that was quite worrying for me. I was like, oh gosh, and with my little studio here,
and the Zack Snyder comment, was
Zack Snyder one, which is like, yeah. But that was interesting as well. We won't tell you the full joke, but yeah, there's a comment on bro film culture. I think Zack Snyder gets a little bit of a pasting for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wonder
really,
Woman butt shots. Anyone?
I really enjoyed the film. For a film about a toy and not really sure what the plot was going to involve, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was more than I expected it would be. I'm glad I wasn't disappointed. It was very hyped up. I think with going up against Oppenheimer and all the build up for Barbenheimer that's come up, I was slightly worried that it might.
You're really upset about Barbieheimer. You don't like Barbieheimer, do you?
You want
Barbenheimer.
I think it should be Barbenheimer. I think that sounds better than Barbieheimer, even though it says Barbieheimer on our.
For a million fans in the comments, Barbieheimer or Barbenheimer.
Is it Barbenheimer or Barbieheimer?
It's Barbieheimer because that's what's on our screen,
Yeah,
which you're very upset about because it covers the Barbieheimer.
Yeah,
But I'm going to be moving our screen around quite a bit.
Yeah.
As it goes.
So, what would you? Are we getting to that point where we rate it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you give it?
It's a 4 for me out of 5. Which is equivalent to an 8 out of 10, or even a 16 out of 20.
Great maths there,
if you'd like.
Jason. You wouldn't know we both lead on maths.
It gets a little bit. Kind of. When we start getting out of 40, I think we get to a 32 out of 40. If I'd give it out of 40.
Yeah.
Out of 80.
So we're going
give
for
it a
80%.
64.
Give it an 80%.
Yeah. So we go all the way to 100. It's an 80%, and the reason why it's a 4 out of 5 because I like the out of 5 reviews, and scores are really useless anyway, aren't they? Really.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's not a masterpiece. It is exactly how I felt about the Lego Movie the first time I saw the Lego Movie, which I thought breath of fresh air. I laughed a lot. I laughed a lot more than I thought I would. I think there are like 20-minute sequences where I just was so entertained. I think the ending doesn't know what it's trying to do, in my opinion. I think it gives all the right messages that it needs to, and then it feels like it doubles down on it. So I feel like the last 10 minutes lost me a bit. It might not other people. I feel like it should end at a certain point where it doesn't. And then I feel like in the real world, it loses me ever so slightly when it's trying to establish more the narrative side. I think I was just enjoying the world. I was enjoying the characters, and I was enjoying, instead of plot, I was enjoying more of what the substance of the world of this film that Greta Gerwig
It does
created.
feel like they didn't know where to end it. I agree with that.
Maybe they did. Maybe we just
that
didn't
was
get that.
I get the joke at the end. I completely get, because there's a bit of a Chekhov's gun when they come into the real world, and they make a comment to the builders, and I think we won't spoil that bit for you. But I think there's a bit of a Chekhov's gun. If you don't know what a Chekhov's gun is, we won't mansplain it.
Can you mansplain to me, please?
So do you know what Chekhov's gun is, don't you?
Well, no, because I'm asking you what it is.
Oh, so Chekhov's gun is basically this film tool where something is seen at the beginning of the film, and it's hinted at, and then always comes up in the third act.
Okay. Yeah,
so Chekhov's gun, for instance, I watched Superman Returns the other day.
It's foreshadowing, right?
Yeah,
right.
And I watched Superman Returns the other day, and
boring.
Yeah, no, it was just on ITV. It was one of those Sunday movie films. And the introduction of Lex Luthor, where he swindles money out of this old lady, when he leaves the building, there's a shot of the this model boat, as it comes out. Then at the end of the film, the third act of the film takes place on a boat. So basically, a Chekhov's gun is any.
I've given you my review score.
Yeah.
I've told you why there's 1 point off.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a half point on, so actually probably would have given a 3.5 if Gosling's character wasn't there. So 4, really good. A couple of bits in here and there. What is your score?
I would probably give it 4.5. I think it was really good. I think for me, Gosling brings it up to a half. I think if you less Gosling would bring it down to a 4. But I think it was I think it was a very solid film. I laughed. I wasn't bored at all throughout. There have been some films that I've seen lately. I know we've mentioned Ant-Man that I've sat through and been absolutely bored.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious, Fast 10. I sat through, was pretty bored. Struggled to get through it. So there's been quite a few films lately that I've really struggled with, and I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought it was really funny. There were no parts I felt, that weren't great. I think it did lag a little bit in the real world. I think there were some scenes, but I think they had to put that in for exposition to develop the relationship between Barbie and the owner, her toy.
I think having Oppenheimer, the expository, the importance of a film, has never been more prevalent in a film that literally just has dialogue the entire time. So I think we said they're two more different, couldn't have be two more different films. So yeah.
So I would give 4.5.
4.5. So out of 20, that gives us a grand total of 16.5.
There you go. Quick maths.
There you go. Quick maths. So what we're going to do, I think, as a segment, is that we have. I record. Well, for Mission Impossible, I recorded my first impressions walking out the cinema. I don't want it to be like a forced talking into it, but I really wanted it to be naturalistic. So the first time I didn't tell Alex or Fran, who I went with to watch Mission Impossible, that I was recording, to which they said that was completely against the law and that I should be in trouble for it. But they've agreed. But and I tried to do the same thing today, but then Damien started talking about things that weren't to do with the film. So these are our first impressions walking out of the cinema.
I didn't know this, by the way.
There were bits where I thought I was the only one that was laughing. No, I thought there was one where there was a guy giving mouth to mouth to the horse.
That was funny.
And the Monty Python reference when they're doing the horse thing.
When they were doing the thing and did you see the two guys just dancing?
Everyone's like, it's like everyone.
Okay, so that is a reference to they're fighting. I can't say that's spoilers.
Well, I wouldn't really call it fighting at the end.
Yeah, there's like a fight when you watch it, because Barbie's not about the spoilers, is it really? We're not going to worry about the spoilers. But there's a scene where the Kens are fighting.
And then
in the background, there's two Kens just dancing with each other, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Oh, I absolutely loved the fight scene. I thought that was brilliant.
Which turned into a dance musical scene.
Yeah, it was the. Also, I feel like Kennedy is going to be a phrase of the summer for guys.
Give it a week. Give it a week.
Clearly, a load of people want to see Barbie. I don't think Oppenheimer will do as well. I think Barbie will. It's tracked to do about half of Barbie. Yeah.
Yeah, as in.
Oh, you gotta go around.
I feel like you need to sing. I'm
Do you
just
want
Ken.
to get in your little look? Those little things there.
And then I turned it off because you were
Yeah,
going to go
so-
into the fact that I need to sing I'm Just Ken, which directly relates to that man thing of let me sing a song at you. Let me sing I'm Just Ken.
No, what I meant by I don't think Oppenheimer will do as well. I mean financially, I think Barbie seems to have a wider appeal from the people where we were at in the cinema. It looked mainly like most of the people there were for Barbie. I mean, you could tell by the pink outfits. But one of the things that frustrate me is I think it's brilliant for cinema that we've got Barbenheimer, where you've got Barbieheimer, where you've got Barbie and Oppenheimer going head to head, because I can't remember the last time we had something like this where we had a real box office battle of two films coming out at the same time. It's been a long time.
I don't think it's
since
going to be a
that.
box office battle at all.
Well, but what frustrates me is you've got Mission Impossible came out last week, and you've got Barbieheimer this week. Why all three films coming out at the same time? Financially could affect them. It's like Indiana Jones came out and it didn't do that well financially. But I think that's more of a Disney Plus problem. The fact that a lot of the Disney films. I'm going off on a tangent, but a lot of the Disney films people stop going to see because they know it's going to be on Disney Plus.
Right, well,
in a
just
month
go
or two's
back to
time.
your original point.
Yeah.
Then, like, I think that there is going to be a different audience for these two films, and those who are diehards or like just cinema viewers are going to watch both anyway. I think Oppenheimer is such a crazily different film to Barbie that I think I don't think it'll play as well with the audiences, Oppenheimer, whereas Barbie will play well with audiences, and also with that 12 certificate, it's going to be more accessible to children and things like that. I mean, and a lot of the reason why people go to the cinema is to take the children. So
yeah, there were a lot of kids.
it's I think Oppenheimer will do well because it has the Nolan name. I don't think it'll do as well. I don't think it'll do nearly as well as Barbie, but I don't think it will do as well as maybe even expected because, Nolan's not really attached to the Batman films anymore. Like the days of the Dark Knight Rises and Nolan being attached
Inception
to that,
as well.
unless you're like a real fan of it, I think, like we're so keen on movies, we do our own podcast. Like
but you say that, but I think
exception to the rule.
Dunkirk did really well financially. Interstellar did really well financially. I think he's had a run of bar Tenet because that didn't do that well because of COVID. But if you look back on all of them, I think they've all been box office number ones. Or since Batman Begins. I'm not sure about the Prestige.
Okay, so let's guess. Let's guess the box office then.
So for this? Or for these other films?
No, so for Nolan films.
So he's, I think, roughly Inception did about 850 mil. I mean, roughly, I think maybe 900. All right. Mm-hmm. The Dark Knight Rises say 1.2 bill. Dark Knight just hit about 1 billion. Am I close? Am I close? Am I close?
I think I'm more.
And the Batman Begins did about 350 mil at the time.
Yeah.
Am I right with all of these?
You're not right with all of it, and I think.
Right. So what was Batman Begins?
Okay.
Tell me.
So number one.
Dark Knight Rises 1.2 bill. I'm going to say. I did more than one.
Well, scrape one. It says here. Scrape one.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
Let's
I'm
go,
thinking
let's go on movieweb.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what? Okay, so that's not the point we're debating. Incredibly popular film, made a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Number 2 is going to be
Dark Knight,
right? Also 1 billion.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think Dark Knight Rises did make more, but
Inception.
Number 3
850
is going to be Inception with 850. Okay, but I put
don't know what Interstellar.
But look, Inception, right? Straight after the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And remember, if you look at inflation, like, arguably, if you look at the quality of Dunkirk, surely it should be number 3. So my whole point is surrounding the fact that it's around that time.
So what did Dunkirk and...
Okay, so number 4...
Interstellar?
Yes.
Let me guess. I was going to say 700.
For a film that big, 700? It's a whole 100 million less than Interstellar.
And then Dunkirk,
number 5.
650?
500.
500. Yeah.
I think we're both kind of right.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong. I think 500 is decent. But
it depends on what his budget is as well.
They're all going to be big.
Yeah, they're going to be big studio.
Batman Begins is at 350.
Yeah.
And then you get, and I think this is going to be the biggest play on Oppenheimer not being as successful.
Yeah.
Is the fact that Tenet grossed 350.
Yeah, but I think
during COVID,
I think it did a good job.
It was horrifically underrated.
And it was the big tentpole movie for COVID. I think it was like one of the first films to be released.
It led to him leaving.
He left Warner Brothers, didn't he?
Yeah. Come back though. They're paying him an absolute dollar for him to come back. But
what did the Prestige do?
It was also, but Tenet was also.
Do you have the Prestige on there? Just out of interest.
I'm on Tenet at the moment. If you don't mind. Sorry.
I bet the Prestige
am I boring you? Tenet was, I think, unfairly panned by critics, and I
think it's because people didn't understand it.
I understood it more than
I understood
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, but you
which we'll get to in a second.
You can hear what was going on. That's
that's the whole point of Tenet is that you could hear. We'll talk about this in the review, but you could hear what's going. You couldn't hear what's going on in Tenet, but because it's an action film.
Yeah.
And you get the general idea of it, and then there's a criticism I have of Oppenheimer that I'll go into in a second. But anyway, so number 7 was Tenet. Number 8. You're not going to believe this. Insomnia.
Really?
100 mil, which I think.
Is this domestic or is this worldwide?
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Well, because worldwide and domestic can make a difference.
It's got to be worldwide. Insomnia's not going to make 100 mil domestic, is it?
But I feel like the Prestige would make more money. I feel like the Prestige was.
Do you know what? Someone made a really good point previously, and actually it kind of plays into the whole Prestige thing as well. But I think Insomnia was released in 2002. I think in those times, especially the 90s, what were films sold on? Which is different to now.
Stars.
The main star.
Like you had Robin Williams and
Al
Pacino in that.
And I think nowadays it's like, do you go to a Marvel film because of Chris Evans, or do you go to see Captain America?
No, it's the brand.
It's the branding, right? It's the branding of it all. So I think there's a reason there why it was quite successful, and I think 100 million is pretty good for 2002. I think so. Then you get number 9. Is the Prestige?
I think it's such an underrated movie. I think it's such an underrated film.
Yeah, just less.
A Nolan film that people forget about.
Well, I think Memento is a great film as well.
Yeah.
40 mil. I didn't know that Insomnia was after Memento. I always thought that Insomnia was one of the first ones.
The Following is his first.
Following was first. So pretty much. What do we predict then the box office is going to be for?
I think it will do. I think there's going to be a lot of people. Because of
it's not
the
Barbenheimer,
it's not. No, it won't crack 1 billion. But I think it will. I think it will hit 700.
500.
I think 700.
I don't think it'll do better than Dunkirk, personally.
I think it will. I think it's got more hype than Dunkirk did. I think it will do well. I think it's got more hype than Mission Impossible, and Mission Impossible I think last week made 250 mil over the 5 days.
It seems like both have set records.
For first.
Barbie's looking to do double.
Yeah, and I think Barbie will gross more. I think it will probably double, but I think Barbie will do really well. I think Barbie will hit 1 billion. I think it will be one of those films that will just do really well because of all the hype.
Cost 100 million to make.
Barbie.
Oppenheimer, which I think about 95% of that's gone to all of the cars that they've had to
ridiculous.
Hire as a result of it.
But I think a lot of actors just want to work with Christopher Nolan. The amount of actors that had short, small roles in that. You can tell they just want to be part of a Nolan film.
Yeah, I completely agree.
He's becoming the director to work for. There was a quote that Matt Damon said recently. He said he told his wife that he would go on holiday with one exception if Christopher, he'd have a break from acting with one exception if Christopher Nolan calls for him.
Yeah, I agree. Right, cool.
So anyway, that's Barbie.
That was Barbie.
I final thoughts. I absolutely love Barbie. I think
you can't have final thoughts now. We're way past the final thoughts.
Well, I mean, it's our podcast. We do whatever we want.
I know, but I'm segmenting these into little snippets and clips. You know.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
this is our new marketing gimmick. You know.
Yeah.
So we've got the long form if people want to sit here and listen for an hour or two whilst they're on a run or a cycle, and then you've got the little short forms if you want to hear about just Oppenheimer or just want to hear about Barbie.
Yeah.
Or just want to hear you waffle on while I try and sort things out. So thank you for going on, by the way.
Okay.
That's what I need you to do.
I know you're doing stuff, so I waffle.
When I look busy...
I waffle.
Waffle.
That's my chance to waffle.
When I look busy, you need to waffle. Oppenheimer is directed by Christopher Nolan, possibly my favourite director of all time. So there is that caveat to this review, is that he blew my mind. I've always been interested in films. I don't know if I ever told you this. I used to get like blank VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And I used to, the stickers you put over the front of the blank ones. And I used to.
Design.
I never watched them. I was obsessed with movies, like organising them.
Yeah. No.
Like I couldn't watch like things that went PG. So I'd look in the TV guide. In the olden days. I'm old now. This is in the 90s. And I'd record the film, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Right? Get the tape out, put the name of it on, put the rating on it.
Yeah.
Because I was obsessed with like ratings and stuff, and I'd be obsessed with like a film being. I remember watching The Mummy and asking my mum if it was too scary, and then I remember asking. That was
99.
Yeah, but I remember asking my mum if Good Will Hunting was too scary to watch as well. Because I didn't understand that
Probably
there was
not
language
appropriate for a
and
kid.
Sex. I just thought films were age restricted because of
Yeah.
violence. So every film I asked, it was like, is this scary?
Yeah.
It's scary. I'm trying to think of like, American Beauty. Is this film scary?
See, my parents
Love that film, by the
didn't
way.
really understand. Like, I still am a huge Batman fan. Probably my top two films of all time would be The Dark Knight, Nolan, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and my parents would, just because I was Batman obsessed, they'd buy me all the Batman VHSs and had Batman Returns. Little did I know that's a 15. So
Yeah.
I'm about, back in the 90s. I think parents just parenting, I think, was a bit more looser back then, and I ended up watching the Tim Burton Batmans. Oh, okay, we're on to the trailer.
Sorry.
We're on to the trailer. So, if you haven't seen this trailer already, enjoy, and we'll have a bit of a reaction to this.
We imagine a future,
He loves a close up to the face, doesn't he?
Oh, in IMAX as well.
Yeah.
and our imaginings horrify us.
By the way, if you get a chance to watch this, you have to see it in IMAX.
Yeah. Don't have a headache.
They won't fear it
The sound design is amazing in it as well.
until they understand it.
I loved all these inserts throughout
And
the
they won't
film
understand it.
to convey his thoughts when he's thinking about
Until they've used it.
Yeah. Can we let's pause that there actually, because I really want to discuss that straight from the bat because it's quite a complex thing to talk
Do we
about.
want to come off the trailer now?
That's all right.
think-
Just very quickly.
Yeah.
Because it might activate some thoughts in our head. But do you notice how I think there's no point in doing spoilers for any of this stuff, for either of these films, because they're not really relevant. We didn't really spoil Barbie.
No.
Oppenheimer, if you don't know the historical, I think it'll help you for us to talk about this film, because I'll tell you why it was a little bit confusing.
We
but
had to talk about it after the
maybe
film,
we're intellectually inferior to those who are listening, but I think you just made a really good point. maybe without even knowing.
Oh, no, I'd like to think I did probably know what I was thinking.
His obsession and hopes and dreams, and I think quantum physics is it's unimaginably difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't think the film goes out of its way to try and tell us what it means and what it is. And I think that's clearly a good idea. It leads more into the politics of what's happening. But just briefly looking at to imagery to identify with his passions. And I'm just like buzzing about this because did you notice how he has those same kind of flashes towards the end? But they represent his anxieties about what he has accomplished. So like, you have dreams of like accomplishing something and you think about them, and then when you also have thought process, after the fact, right? And you reflect on your behaviors, and it's funny how his dream of working in quantum physics has led to him to have such guilt about what has happened. I thought that was just a really good kind of almost oxymoronic device there, where at the start the flashes of atoms and things are representative of his dreams and his willingness to learn, and then the flashes of the atoms and the atom bomb going off and all that kind of stuff is flashes of his guilt and how many people that died as a result of what happened in Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Theory will take you only so far.
Yeah, these individual representations we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can be trusted with such a weapon.
Cillian Murphy in this film is...
But we have no choice.
He is so good, and he really does just become
Anyone. Ever.
You forget Cillian Murphy is such a well-known actor. He's been in so many famous things like, Peaky Blinders. He's obviously been in, I think this is his 6th film with Nolan. He's been in a lot of movies with Nolan, for Christopher Nolan, and he's become such a well-known actor. I actually forgot he was Cillian Murphy during the film. For me, he was Oppenheimer. I think he did such a good job with very little makeup or anything like that. I think he did such a good job of embodying the character, the person, that you just sort of believe he is Oppenheimer. It's fantastic. He needs to be Oscar nominated. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the Oscar for Best Actor for that.
I think part and parcel of being in a Nolan film is that you're going to get the best out of the acting credentials, right? You're going to get the best out of those.
Yeah,
those
actors. Robert Downey Jr. is absolutely incredible.
Hands down,
his best performance.
Academy Award for supporting actor.
Yeah.
I'd say even more so than Cillian Murphy, and I agree that he's brilliant in it. I think it's understated, and I think
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, understated. Yeah. However, powerful in what he's trying to convey.
He conveys so much emotion.
Yeah.
In such a subtle way, and that's all captured on the IMAX cameras.
There's really effective use of like close-ups. There's really effective use of like we said, like the flashbacks, flash forwards, the flashes. I mean, Christopher Nolan does not like working with chronology, does he? Like,
no.
Particularly the first, I'd say, third of the film goes backwards and forwards a lot. I think I was quite confused to begin with in terms of how the order of things were playing out. There wasn't a binary kind of order of play.
Yeah.
Which most biopics kind of adhere to, because what you're trying to do is it's like the rise and fall of someone. Whereas Oppenheimer doesn't really have a rise and fall. I'd say there's no one but Nolan that can direct a film like this, because he squeezes every bit of tension out of the situation, whereby we've seen flashes and gunshots and superheroes and all sorts. Something like this, which I think is massive in terms of scale and what happened. I think to reimagine this as a film and to do it effectively, I think is really difficult. Yeah, right. And then to reimagine the atomic bomb.
He managed to make this film so tense from start to finish throughout. I was on tenterhooks the whole time, and considering it's something, I mean, you could go into already basically knowing, but the fact that he made this historical piece is, you know, nearly, you know, 80 odd years ago, he managed to make this historical piece interesting, you know, and tense, even though you know the outcome of it all. The fact that he made it tense throughout, and there was more tension in that movie than probably any superhero movie, any, you know, blockbuster.
Ant-Man Quantumania.
Oh, let's not get into that. That's awful. But
The Flash
as well. There was such a fantastic build up of tension throughout, leading up to the test of the bomb. And I mean, Nolan is famously anti CGI. He likes to go with practical effects, and the fact that he managed to make that film with practical effects, the bomb with practical effects, is incredible.
I don't think the bomb was practical.
No, he did. If you look it up, he made that. He tried to I think they recreated it in some sort of form. I'm sure they enhanced it with CGI.
I agree, and I think, and this is where one of my criticisms come in, because I found this film hard to grasp and get into it, the flow of it, for a while, and I must admit that it's very hard for me to criticize a Nolan film, but I found the chronology quite difficult to understand. I think I really recommend you have some context about the time before
the
you watch
subject
it.
matter before you go.
Yeah, like read up on it, just brief, because we read it up on it after we watched the film, just to kind of understand a little bit more about what was going on. I don't know if that's just me being stupid or something, but it took me a while. I did get it. I think the day of the atom bomb test was really when I got in my stride in terms of really enjoying it.
It did speed up after that as well.
And I think
the
rest of it, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But I think the tension that you talk about, I think a lot of the heavy lifting is done by the score. Because a lot of it is dialogue. And the sound
design as well.
Yeah, of course. But a lot of it is dialogue. It's very dialogue
heavy film, yeah. A lot of talking.
And it's going to be put off. If you're looking for a blockbuster, I mean, it's the same way in which people say, like, Batman Begins, if you're looking for just an action blockbuster. It's almost like there's art house elements to the film. I think in this one, the biopic level, I think that it reminded me a lot of Lincoln by Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
In that it was very dialogue heavy, and it was most about kind of the conversations that had in the lead up to it, and the ramifications of the political stances that people took up, government interference, and what happened as a result of that. And I think it does it really well, I think, from a certain point. And you're talking about that tension. I think the music and that tension that it was building, Christopher Nolan loves having really strong score, even in dialogue scenes.
I think even the way he shot some certain scenes and the way the editing was.
But I mean, what I'm saying is my criticism is that where I'm really straining to listen and understand the conversations, and to get myself into understanding the complete context of what's happening in the film, I'm straining to listen to the conversation because the score is intertwining itself with the speech to create this tension, and that can be quite, I don't know if that's just because of how I hear things. I was struggling to hear some of the conversations because of the score, and I know people were very critical, and I'm not saying this because people were critical of Tenet with regards to that. I didn't feel they had a problem at all. I had a problem at all with that. I think I did watch it with subtitles because people told me to. I didn't have a problem with that at all in Dark Knight Rises, because those kind of films, they were action blockbuster films. I don't know why people needed to understand so much about what was going on, or understand the nuances behind the Tenet going backwards in time and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with this, I think it's very important you understand and hold on to every sentence, because the expository element is so important to driving it forward.
Yeah.
Then you get Christopher Nolan's filmmaking, which then adds so much to it.
I think if you miss out, it's very important that you say focus because there's a lot that happens in the first. I'd say the first in his early life, in the first 20-25 minutes to first act. About the communism USA party, you need to really be invested in that bit because that comes back in the third act, as in when they're trying to indict him. So
yeah, I'd say stay with it. I think many people are going to get lost in that first act, but it really takes its time with getting to know Oppenheimer as a student. Developing as a professional, and his relationships
also gives an insight into the man in terms of his personality, his relationships, like you were just going to say, his relationships with people, and there
are important relationships that become important later on. Without spoiling it, like there are people that he speaks to that motivate some of his decisions.
The acting is first class from everyone. There's so many people that just pop up. Josh Hartnett's in it. He's fantastic. Rami Malek. I mean, Rami Malek's got a very small role, and it just shows you the caliber of acting when you've got someone like Rami Malek. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but him turning up, he only has a couple of lines in it, and he's great. Gary Oldman turns up for a cameo, and he's brilliant in it. There are just so many, and you've got a lot of I wouldn't say up and coming, but a lot of actors who are on their way up. You've got I can't remember his name. Meg Ryan's son. He's Meg Ryan's son. And
who's that?
I can't remember. His name's Jack, but I can't remember his dad's famous as well. His dad's Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal's in it. Who's the dad in that? The name's gone black. No, he's a really famous actor. Mine's gonna go blank now. It's gonna really bug me.
Okay, while you look for that, I'll talk about cast. I think it is an absolute pleasure to watch these people act.
Dennis Quaid, Jack Quaid, is his name.
Oh.
He's in Scream. He's in Scream 5. Anyway, he's fantastic in it.
You gotta let me waffle. You gotta let me waffle. You can't just come in.
I'm the king of waffle.
You gotta let me waffle. No, okay. I've lost.
So anyway, Jack Quaid's in it. He's from The Boys. He's in The Boys.
Oh, of course, I know that is. Okay, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
You should have said that straight away.
The Boys. You had the guy from Jake and Drop.
Oh, so he's a nepotism baby.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Drake and Josh, the guy from Josh. No, Drake and Josh.
Yeah,
he was in it, but he's a really good actor. He's in How I Met Your Father.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in How I Met Your Father. But they're just some amazing,
I saw him on YouTube videos and stuff.
Amazing actors that are in and actresses that are in it. Florence Pugh is in it. She's brilliant.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's not just list the cast.
Sorry,
let's talk about them. No, I'm just having a go at you because you spoiled my waffle. But like just to carry on, it's like it is a real pleasure to watch these actors act, and I think I think where I might have drifted off a bit, there's a new actor that comes in who does an exceptional, because there again it might be a slight gripe and a nitpick for me, but there are so many characters in this film that when they are referred to by name,
you get lost a bit.
I'm like, it's like so and so's done this, made this decision. So and so, I'm like, who's that one? And it's really important because I only found out. This is again probably my fault. Is that I really need to understand which one Robert Downey Jr.'s name was.
Strauss.
Which is Strauss. And when they were referring to him, I didn't know they were referring to him until some things happened. So, my inability to connect the dots with the character names, which are obviously based off real life names, but I was like, who are they talking about? What's this one referring to? Because obviously, there's a lot to do with obviously the Soviet Union and moles and spies. Government officials, who's working for whom. It must have blown Alex's mind because we watched Mission Impossible and she was talking about which government official is actually real, and I think there's quite a few parallels there with actually Mission Impossible with regards to atomic weapon with the AI, and I think it's the end of the world is a real. It's funny because someone famous, I don't know who it was, said that cinema represents life and how we feel about the world. And a lot of films that we're watching at the moment is about the end of the world, and it's about the potential of things that take over us and take over the world. And it's quite interesting how these two films do represent that. I think Mission Impossible in a far more entertaining and blockbuster way, more tongue-in-cheek, whereas this one really takes it, even though it represents the 40s and 50s, it still represents our fears of today.
Well, at the end, it literally shows the current possibility, because it shows actual nuclear, the possibility of what would happen if both sides bombed each other. It actually shows
we're only a decision away from that happening, and that's incredibly scary. And I think if you go into Oppenheimer with the right mindset of understanding what you're going into and what you're coming in for is a representation of humanity's battle to grasp something that is so profound. In that, I think it's the flick of a switch, the decision making that could change the world, and government and people in charge, and the people that we trust with this information, with these decisions. It's a horror in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of articles saying this is one of the most important films of this century in terms of the message that it's giving, and I think what it personifies is the fact that the minute Oppenheimer, the bomb is made, and he goes.
Are you going to spoil?
No, probably.
Okay.
Right, anyway,
can you hold that thought and then
hold on. No. All right. What I'll do is, all I'm going to say is,
okay.
Well, it's history.
I know it's history. I know.
You're not.
There are some things I want to talk about that are specific to the film.
Yeah. Anyway,
So,
my point is that what I'm going to make is that.
Sorry, mate.
The point I'm making is that a lot of it comes down to fear and the fact that there's a quote at the beginning about how Prometheus gave fire to man, and Prometheus was punished by, I think lashing for eternity or so on.
Yeah.
And I think the whole representative this is a modern take, even though it's real. It's the modern take of Oppenheimer gave fire. He gave nuclear weapons and the opportunity to destroy the world to not just to the US government, but to the world, because there were spies who took their information about the atom bomb. So the fact that Russia, other world powers now have access to nuclear bombs because of the research and everything that Oppenheimer did with the A-bomb, and the fact that the minute that was done, you can see at the end of the film, and it's not really a spoiler because it is what it is, but the fact that the realization, and I think that it covers it in the third act, so I won't go into it too much, but you can see why he's so against something else being developed. I won't spoil what that is, but because he has this realization that the power he's given the US and Russia and other worlds, he has the power to destroy everything.
He makes a good point in that he says, like, it's going to happen anyway. The understanding of how to create these things will happen eventually. That's why he was always an advocate for
being the first ones to do it, so that you can.
But not just being the first ones to do it, for there to be like an international agreement and for there to be a coherent.
And I agree with that. He wanted nuclear weapons to be governed by a UN, by the fact that if everyone has access to nuclear weapons in terms of that it's controlled.
Yeah.
Now the issue with that is every country is so fearful of each other. We had two at the time, especially. You just had 2 world wars where you had countries betraying each other and at war, that there's this fear that no country trusts each other. So as much as there's the ideal that every country should be in harmony, there is the fear that a country will betray another country, or try and invade and so on. So in an ideal world, that would be the case, but you see it in the third act, the way the US government acts and behaves with it all, the way that the investigation, everything happens, that there's at the core of it is fear. They want to be the leading power in it, so they control, and I think that's what that the message that is given. So,
well, let's give ratings because I want to go into that.
Oh,
that's a really
for
good
me,
point.
5 out of 5. I loved it. I thought it was such a brilliant film. I was engaged throughout. It was very tense. I'm not sure if it's my favourite Nolan film, but I think it's up there. I think I preferred that to Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
If I would watch Oppenheimer again. It surprised me because I genuinely went into Oppenheimer knowing it would probably be a great film, but I didn't know that I would enjoy it as much as I did. I'd probably put that over Tenet, and I'd probably put it over Interstellar. I wouldn't put it over the Dark Knight trilogy or Inception, but I really enjoyed it. So I think it was a masterpiece. I think that might be Nolan's Schindler's List. His dark period piece that covers a really tough and dark period of human history. So 5 out of 5 for me.
Fair enough. You're not going to give it 6.
Well, if we're going, I would give it 10 out of 5.
I think you can give it. I think we're allowed to give 1 6. 2 6s per year.
Well, I mean,
you can't give it on the first. You
give
it on the first episode.
But this year, I don't think there've been some great films out. But I mean, I don't think there's been any. I mean, I'm trying to think back to what's come out this year, but I don't know if there's anything that I'd say I would give a 6 for. I mean, I'll talk about Indiana Jones. You haven't seen the new Indiana Jones. I'm not saying that's a 6 or even a 5. But I mean, the last film I think I saw in the cinema that got me this excited and I came out really thinking about it was probably The Batman, which is just such a good film.
That or The Triangle of Sadness were my 2 favourites of last year.
Okay, you had to get arty with it, didn't you?
It's not arty. I think you'd love it. It's so good. Are you a fan of The White Lotus?
Yes.
Yeah, you'd like that.
But anyway, no, I loved Mission Impossible, but we'll do that in another pod.
No, yeah.
But anyway, so I would give it 5 out of 5. What about yourself?
I will give it 4.5.
I think you might need to rewatch it.
No, I think that
because of
that's
the sound.
why it's masterful. Like it's such a superbly crafted.
I'm surprised you're giving a Nolan film not 5.
I know, but it's not within my wheelhouse of interest. It is interesting. My lack of context prior to the film and understanding of the historic events, it shouldn't be important. But I think to your layman moviegoer, I think it's going to be difficult. I do think so. And if that's not the case, I think I need to be challenged and maybe go back to school because. But I did generally understand it. I did generally enjoy it. I was thrilled in some parts. It was tension. 4.5 is very good for me, mate. 5 is almost perfect film for me. You know, like I'd only give. We'll go into our top 5 Nolan films in a second, but I think it is very long, like incredibly long, and I felt the length. Weirdly, so more at the start than at the end, which is a weird thing. And I think that the pacing at the start is a bit slow, and but like I said, the performances are cinematography is gorgeous. It looks like a Nolan film. It just it's so refreshing to go to an IMAX screen and watch him put things in frame, and the way in which the close-ups, the way in which he portrays emotion is excellent. I'd say it's a 5 for me from the moment that the test is run. I think the dialogue pacing quickens up. Everything's a little bit more understandable. However, there are some things prior to it which I really enjoyed. I really enjoy his relationship with Emily Blunt's character. I think my favourite relationship is his with Florence Pugh, which I don't think... It's weird how I say the start is the longest bit, but actually I was the most interested in that relationship we had with Florence Pugh, and I'll talk about just quickly like a kind of spoilery thing in a bit, but with regards to that relationship, it kind of is the reason why it's a 15 or R-rated film with the nudity. But I thought that was quite powerful, actually. A scene in which exposes something behind Oppenheimer's frame and state of mind. So 4.5 for me, really very good. It's not going to be one of my top films from Nolan.
So what are your top 5 Nolan films?
Before we go into that, because
Okay.
I'm going to be sectioning these things out. See, listen, we're going to try and get some views.
You can
we're
tell
going to actually try.
You can tell he's the podfather.
Well, no, it's this is planned and strategized, mate.
Okay, all right. So
just a quick one I want to talk about is the inclusion of nudity in this film, and Chris Nolan said there was a need for it, and I think it tells us about his feelings for Florence Pugh's character and about
to
Kitty,
Emily
Blunt's.
Yeah.
I think the film portrays his love for Florence Pugh's character is that he felt most comfortable around her. I think there was an obsession around her. Firstly, because he gave her flowers.
Yeah, every time.
Every time he saw her. He was very... he didn't give up when it came to her. Until eventually they had that conversation in his most vulnerable state of being naked,
and he was so upset when
and when she died there was a and so that scene where he's being interrogated and he's feeling uncomfortable because he is quote unquote naked psychologically. I think it's so brilliant because what it tells us is that he identifies feeling uncomfortable as being naked, and it's only when he's with Florence Pugh that he is actually okay with being naked, and so is she. And there's a scene where she's asking him to read Sanskrit, and she's naked, and so he I think he values like the human body, and like that element of it was really, and then like just like a double whammy is that you then get the nakedness element from a completely different perspective of Emily Blunt's character, of which she's seeing them have sex. And I think that's really good because you're first going like he's really uncomfortable. Then you're seeing it from her perspective of them together, which is creating that kind of jealousy. And it's quite funny because like he's like, I've already told you about this.
I feel like his relationship with Emily Blunt is more out of she thinks he's a great man, and even despite all of it, she keeps relaying the fact that you've got to be strong. You're the person to do this. You're the person. And I don't know whether it's more of like she was in love with the idea of what he was able to achieve, and whether that was actual love, and he was actually more in love with Florence Pugh's character. But whereas the relationship with
she was like the first, like your first love.
I think his relationship with Emily Blunt is feels more of a duty
kind of thing.
Operational.
Because he gets her pregnant, and I think the more I think about it, the more I like this film. But the more I think about Emily Blunt's character, the more she's probably one of my favourite characters because she's so flawed.
But brilliant. There's a point where...
But so strong,
there's a point where she really becomes very strong and supportive of him and resolute. She's brilliant.
I think
everyone was fantastic in this film.
Just to continue on hers, I think there's a character arc with her. Because she's an alcoholic. She gets pregnant. She then... did you notice something about the baby screaming? I don't know what it was something to do with what was what was the message in that. The baby was constantly. But anyway, so they give away the baby for a time, don't they? And he goes, brilliant dialogue. He goes, it's because I'm not, because we're terrible people.
Yeah. And
the guy goes, you're not terrible people if you say you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful. I think it kind of goes into the whole vulnerability thing. We were talking about Barbie earlier, in that being vulnerable and saying you're going through a bad time and being open and honest about your flaws is a powerful thing. But she's really unlikable, because I don't know about you, but I was like kind of more Team Florence Pugh.
But she becomes more likable as the film
goes on. She becomes a great
goes
mum.
on.
She becomes really
Supportive,
strong support for him, and really important in his life, and that is the rewarding side of their relationship continuing, and there's not much romance there. It's just, like you say, it's supportive, loving, dutiful relationship. I just wanted to speak about that as a more of a spoiler kind of thing. Anything else that you kind of wanted to speak about? What do you think of Strauss's motivations? Did you think it was obvious that he, because I got that in the first hour that he was a support of him.
I think he came off a bit of a narcissist, wanted to sort of bathe in the glory of the scientists, and the fact that he couldn't, and the fact that Oppenheimer basically mocked him, and the whole point of the second part with Strauss was that he tried to get revenge on Oppenheimer, and I think that's what it came down to, and the volatility of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as the film progresses. He seems like a very cool, calm character at the beginning, and it's like he's telling this story very calmly, and he's in control. He's in control. And he's very pro Oppenheimer at the beginning the way he's telling this story, and maybe not so much pro Oppenheimer, but
that's because Eisenhower is seen as a real idiot, right? He has support of Eisenhower. Is it Eisenhower?
Who's
the president at the time?
No, it was Truman.
Oh, it was Truman. Sorry.
So so anyway, and as the whatever he's trying to get, I think he's trying to get on the board or something, or trying to get into the Senate. I think he's trying to become a senator. Yeah. When that unravels, when that unravels, and the sign, like Rami Malek's character speaks out against him, his shroud completely goes, and he becomes very volatile, vindictive, very nasty, catty. And I think I love the fact that Robert Downey Jr. just sort of engrossed himself in this role, and I thought he was brilliant. I think Robert Downey Jr. should probably deserve an Oscar nom for supporting actor.
He should get it. I think it's the best performance.
There's nothing I've seen
in the film, in my opinion. And I say there's it's chock full of brilliant performances.
Yeah, I think Cillian Murphy deserves an Oscar nomination for best actor.
I think the Flower Moon, Scorsese versus Nolan's Oppenheimer, I think there's going to be a lot of votes between the two.
The Academy, for some reason, doesn't give Nolan the respect that he deserves. You actually look back at...
But do you not feel this is the most Oscar film? Like Lincoln. I think Lincoln cleaned up. And
but I just... For some reason, it was like the same thing with Scorsese for years. You look back at Scorsese's catalogue of films, Taxi Driver, to name one of many, Mean Streets, and you look at the films he's made over the years, Goodfellas, and I think he was nominated 11 times, something silly like that, for best director. And don't get me wrong, Departed, one of my favourite films as well. I think maybe not in my top 10, but when I was a teenager it was. But I'd say it's easily
very good.
Very good film. Yeah. Is it Scorsese's best film?
What do you think is Scorsese's best film? If I put a gun to your head now, just what is it?
I mean,
say it. Say it.
Do you know? I absolutely love Mean Streets. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't actually.
You need to watch it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's very early, very very young Robert De Niro, Harvey
do you
Keitel,
know what mine is?
Taxi Driver.
I told you. Yeah, but
No, I think Taxi Driver. I think is like the go-to that people would say.
No,
That's what I mean.
really?
Yeah, I think so. Either people say, "Oh, do you know what actually?"
I haven't consciously chosen Taxi Driver because it's the go-to. It's because I
But-
absolutely love that film.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say Taxi Driver. That's why I went for the Mean Streets.
I didn't know that was the case.
Silence is such a good film.
Haven't seen that.
Silence is a slog, and it's one of those films you might not watch. You probably watch once in your life. I remember watching it in cinema, and it's his most personal film because he's a Catholic and or Christian, and it's all about relationship between with God and so on, and I really enjoyed that film.
God and so on.
No, it's a relationship between the fact that I'm going off on a tangent because we're not even talking about this, but it's a relationship between the fact that you pray, but all you get back is silence, and it's this priest. I can't remember the time period. It was when they went over to Japan, when I think at the time Japan was Buddhist. I think Buddhist country.
Why are you explaining the film?
You said you haven't seen it, and then you.
Anyway. This is podcast.
Anyway, all right, scrap this. Damien waffling. Thanks, mate. So anyway,
it's fine. We could do a whole segment on Scorsese.
I mean, yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Fire Moon film, and I think he's a masterful director.
Shutter Island as well was a great one.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say
it's one of his best, but
just going back to
Wolf of Wall Street,
brilliant, fantastic. Yeah,
you know,
just going back to you said, does it make your top?
Actually, films? I would say probably The Departed's my favourite Scorsese film.
Okay, just so I can start this segment again.
But see Mean Streets. If you haven't seen Mean Streets, give it a go. I'm pretty sure it's called Mean Streets. Brilliant.
Okay, so I'm going to start this sentence now. Right. So that I can segment this into a YouTube clip.
Okay.
Again, top 5 Nolan films. Now, I don't think that it makes my top 5. Oppenheimer.
Right. Number 1 is I think for both of us is The Dark Knight.
Correct.
Not only a comic book masterpiece, I think it's just a film masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. The best iteration of a villain put on screen, I would say.
I think, yeah, it's such a... And they actually, I'm pretty sure I'm right with this, after The Dark Knight didn't get nominated for Best Picture, the following year they increased the Best Picture nominations to 10 films. Because there was an uproar, the fact that The Dark Knight didn't get nominated.
But I don't think it was about... But I disagree with that idea in the first place, that it wasn't in the top whatever films it was in anyway.
No,
because it was the best film of that year.
It was the best film.
So number one,
The Dark Knight.
Would be Dark Knight, because it is my favourite film of all time.
I would probably say Batman Begins is my second.
Number 2 is Batman Begins.
Is that yours?
No.
Oh, mine. Oh, so Dark Knight, Batman Begins. No, Nolan just reinvented the comic book movie with Batman Begins. I think he did such a good job of reigniting Batman, the interest in Batman. It was an adaptation of Batman Year One. Mm-hmm. I think he did such a good job of bringing Batman into a more, real life style and tone. And you could tell he really thought about the real life appliance of a lot of his gadgets. He had the tumbler, it's more of a tank. It would be more realistic. Mm-hmm. So I'd probably say Dark Knight number 1, Batman Begins number 2. Dark Knight Rises, I'm a huge Batman fan, so my top 3 are going to be the Batman movies. Dark Knight Rises, I think, is a film that unfairly got compared to The Dark Knight at the time, and I think it's actually going to be, I think, over time, get more respect than it did. I think it's a fantastic film. I've watched it numerous times, and it's one of those films that I go back and watch, and I think I enjoy more and more every time I see it. So they're my top 3. Number 4 is Inception. Mm-hmm. I think it's such a fantastic film, and I think for a Nolan film, whereas Tenet, I think, confused people with the... I'd say 60% of the audience who watched Tenet, maybe more, didn't really get it. I think it was stylistically... Yeah. And had really good concepts, but I think at the same time it wasn't too out there that people didn't grasp it. So I enjoy Inception from a intellectual point of thinking about the dream within a dream and all of the concepts, but also from stylistically some of the choices with the rotating lobby, the
people had problems with that understanding Inception when it came out. I do wonder if Tenet came out before Inception, would Tenet be the one that's so interesting to people because it was so hard to understand? I don't know.
Possibly.
I'm just thinking out loud.
So anyway, that's my top 4, and I would
5.
probably say for number 5, I would have to say either really difficult Dunkirk or The Prestige. I think The Prestige is really probably The Prestige. I think I probably would say The Prestige. I'd probably have to rewatch both of them, but I think The Prestige is a really underrated film. Fantastic cast. David Bowie's in it randomly as Tesla, but Christian Bale is fantastic in it. I think it's got a great bait and switch reveal at the end. Hugh Jackman's fantastic in it. Dunkirk is great on a large scale movie, and I think it's the first time Nolan started to move away from the blockbuster in terms of the science fiction or comic booky sort of style and then stuff, and moving towards more historical pieces like Dunkirk and now Oppenheimer. But I'd probably say I'm going to go for The Prestige. So triple bill of Batman. I mean, I've seen all the Nolan all the Dark Knight trilogy in IMAX several times. That's how much I love them. Then Inception, and I'm probably gonna have to go for The Prestige. Your top 5?
Right, very good. I'm very well. It was quite, packed up in a little box. Well described.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't waffly.
No.
It's brilliant, mate.
Alright, so
sorry, I feel like I'm undermining you by saying.
Alright, so let's go yours.
So I'm going to try and be as good as what you were, because you were fantastic there. I'm going to go 5 down.
Okay. So number 5.
No, I have to go 1 up because I'm going. This is just straight from off the cuff, isn't it?
Yeah, well, your number 1's The Dark Knight.
So my number 1's Dark Knight, as I've mentioned. My number 2 is Dunkirk. I think the way in which it deals with chronology is far superior to how that deals with it in Oppenheimer. I think how it deals with time, the week, day, hour.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I think the performances are great. I think it gets the best performances out of actors who you wouldn't expect from. I think it's exciting. I think there's tension. I think it has one of the best opening scenes ever. It's just an absolute superb 5 out of 5 for me. Probably my favourite war film of all time.
Okay.
Number 3 is The Dark Knight Rises. I agree with you completely. I watched The Dark Knight Rises opening night in a packed theatre. In England, if you're watching from America, in England it's a bit different. You're not going to get people whooping and going and clapping and standing. But there was a real atmosphere. And you go for... I think, you don't get, I suppose, that experience in English cinemas as you would maybe in American cinema, in that people are so passionate and so aggressively passionate about what they're watching. So that night was special because it was the first time really in which I kind of went in there and I was a little bit like a fanboy and when he gets out the pit, I'm going like, yeah, come on, get out of there, like genuinely, like I was getting really excited. And the overall experience of the film was one of my favourite movie experiences of all time. I think Bane's brilliant. I just think it's a great film. Yeah. I think it's really not underrated. It's really
unfairly
unappreciated
because it's compared to The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Anything that came after The Dark Knight, I think, wasn't going to have set that same standard. I think Heath Ledger, I think, is one of the best, probably one of the best roles in cinema. I think he did such an amazing job. And
wait, hang on, are you saying he's better than Jared Leto's Joker?
I think, but not just the Joker. I think in any film role, it's so memorable, and amazing. It's like so iconic that anything that comes after any villain or anything it's always going to be compared as the pinnacle.
Yeah, I agree.
So Dark Knight Rises, number 4.
Inception.
Excellent
film. 5 out of 5 for me. Really interesting conceit. I didn't find it difficult to understand that one.
Yeah.
I found Oppenheimer more difficult to understand.
And number 5.
Oh, okay. It's between 3.
Alright,
So you did 2.
I did 2.
I'll show you my 3.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Interstellar,
I don't think you'll get them.
Interstellar, Batman Begins, and Memento.
Ooh, I like Memento actually. No, one right.
Interstellar?
Yeah.
Insomnia?
Nope.
So there's not many left. The following?
Nope.
What? Oh, Tenet. Tenet, Interstellar, and
big surprise for everyone. I'm sure
and
people,
Oppenheimer.
I'm sure people pick your one over mine, but my jostle for number 5 are all my 4.5s, which are Interstellar, Oppenheimer, and Tenet.
I would put Batman Begins as a 5-star. I would put that above them.
Batman Begins is a 4 for me.
No.
I know. But that's my opinion, mate. It's just my opinion.
Don't agree with it.
My number 5 is Tenet. And the reason why is when I watched Tenet for the first time, I had the lowest expectations that I had for a Christopher Nolan film following The Dark Knight. I'm very much into my reviews. We hadn't actually watched or listened to any reviews before this, by the way.
No.
This is our own opinions of the films that we watched today. And we'll try and keep it that way, I think. Like, before...
we didn't even discuss what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, Puff and Barbie a little bit over lunch. Over at Cheeky Nando's. So I had really low expectations. And again, opening scenes, man. He's just so good at doing opening scenes. The opening scene in the theatre is exceptional. I remember just one thing, like them running and the music in the background and the intensity and like how much I just wanted to jump. I was just so in from the moment.
I think also he cast the great John David Washington.
Yeah.
He was absolutely brilliant
as the protagonist, which I think is a fantastic name. It was like your typical. I think it was such an underrated action film, and I think it deserves to be in my top 5 because there's so many good. Again, there's 2 brilliant central performances there, by John David Washington and Robert Pattinson, and I think
Robert Pattinson's brilliant in it.
I didn't find the playing with time off-putting or in terms of understanding. I don't really understand the mechanics behind it. I just thought it was interesting. I do think that the villain, who's played by Kenneth Branagh, is a bit stocky, kind of by-the-mill villain for a Nolan film.
He's used him quite a lot recently.
Yeah.
He was in Dunkirk. He's in this.
But again, like, you're comparing him...
But you forget about him. Do you know what?
But the thing is, the reason why people are criticising him is because they're going, oh, he's a Nolan villain, he has to be something special.
No, he's not. Yeah, but he wasn't the villain in any of the others. I'm just saying...
No. But I'm talking about the comparison. The comparison to a Nolan villain.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is that it's not as groundbreaking as the others.
No.
However,
he's forgettable. In all honesty, I completely forgot about him being in Tenet.
But that doesn't have to be the draw. That's what I'm saying.
No.
And so for that reason, I think the action set pieces are really interesting and great. I was completely intrigued throughout.
I would love to see a Bond film by Nolan, because I think there were elements of it I think Nolan's favourite Bond film is On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is the one between After You Only Live Twice. It's George Lazenby. It was his only Bond film. But I think there's a scene in Inception, which is up in the mountains. I think it was filmed in the same place in Austria, and I think it was Austria anyway. That you can tell he's clearly inspired by the Bond movies for a lot of that key scene anyway.
I feel like I've really got my 2 dream Bond films they aren't Bond films. So I've got my serious Bond film, which is the recent Mission Impossible film.
Yeah.
and then I've got my quirky, fun Bond films, which are the Kingsman films. So I feel like, and you know, I think the is it Macquarie?
Yeah.
I think the Macquarie Mission Impossible films do take a lot of Nolan. I really do believe that there is a lot of Nolan-esque elements in the most recent.
Stunts are, well, they all go practical. The same.
Well, exactly, but
stunts.
even like the style in which things happen.
We need to not deviate on the Mission Impossible because we are going to do a Mission Impossible podcast. So you're waffling a bit here.
A little bit of a
so
taste
we will keep that for another episode. But no, I would love to see a Nolan Bond film. The only thing I think is the producers.
Yeah, you continue talking about the Nolan Bond film.
Yeah, but we're talking about Nolan. We're talking about Nolan.
Okay,
Nolan, I think, has a lot of power in terms of he's very. It's not a studio film; it's a Nolan film. Whereas the Bond films are I can't remember, but I can't remember the names of the producers, but they basically, you're right there. They basically, it's Barbara something, I can't remember the name, but they're the people who do the casting and everything for the Bond films. So the only thing I think would be a problem is that Nolan would have to have full control over it. Are we right there? We still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording. Just keep talking.
Oh, okay. So, anyway, I would love to see a Nolan Bond film. But, yeah, I think we're all entitled to our opinions. I don't agree with your top 5, but I think Batman Begins definitely deserves to be in there. So, we're going to go on to another segment, which is what we've been watching on streaming.
Yep.
And
so, 3 categories, right?
Yeah.
2 minutes max to talk about them.
Stream it, rent it,
so
bin it,
buy it,
stream it, bin it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bin it, yeah.
Bin it.
Bin it.
Bin it. So, right. First,
I'm going into my. If I'm on my phone, I'm going into my films that I've watched recently. So
do you want to start?
It's got to be. So we've got quite a few. So it's got to be short, sharp, to the point.
Yeah.
And then if we feel each other is doing waffle, so we're quite harsh on each other.
We are, yeah.
We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop, and you have to give your mark out of 5.
Right.
Straight away.
I'm gonna start with The Outlaws on Netflix. I watched that recently. I was bored and I just stuck something on, and it's got Adam Devine and Nina Dobrev in it. I mean, Nina Dobrev is only in it for a handful of scenes, but it's got Pierce Brosnan. I can't remember the woman's name in it, the actress. Very Netflixy, you know, very similar to, you know, the Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, and Gal Gadot. Do you remember they made that film? I can't remember the name of it. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm on about?
Red Notice or something?
Red Notice, that was it. I was thinking Red, but very okay. I mean, I'd give it 2 stars. It was very silly. The budget didn't look great. You could tell it was felt like a made for TV film. The jokes weren't great in it. Yeah, I would say avoid if you want.
Avoid mark out of 5.
2 at best, maybe 1.5.
Well then, mine
kills a bit of time.
I rented Infinity Pool.
Yeah, you.
It is
David Lynch's son.
Not Lynch, it's Cronenberg's son.
Cronenberg's son.
Yeah.
That's it.
Brandon Cronenberg. It was tipped to be the White Lotus, but like really disturbing White Lotus, and I was like, I love the White Lotus series. Yeah, as a film, it is. It disturbed me. Alex came back from somewhere, and I just finished watching it, and she said, "What's the film about?" And I went, I can't really explain it. And I've watched a lot of like.
So is this a bin it or rent it?
I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
Say my review and then I'm gonna do the thing. And the more I thought about it, the more I enjoyed. It's about a guy who goes on holiday with his girlfriend, and I can't really explain it. They meet a couple. They get into an accident.
Yeah.
They get in trouble with the authorities at this kind of made-up European country. And then they provide an alternative to jail or execution. And the film goes on from there. and it's about about the rich and how people use power to corrupt and how people have power over others and how they utilize.
Sounds
that.
like The Menu, bit like The Menu.
I love The Menu as well. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first half of it. It then gets weird, very, very weird. It gets very Cronenbergian. And apparently it was like, in America they got the NC-17 rating.
Okay.
And they had to cut it down to an R, and apparently they got rid of a lot of stuff to make it an R, and I think it got lost in translation in terms of what they were trying to achieve with it. I know I'm getting to the end of it. So I recommend it. I think you should stream it. I don't think it's a rental or a buy. I think it's a stream recommendation. I'd love to hear your opinion on the future podcast. I'd give it a 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to do another bin it. Well, stream it /
Any
bin
films
it.
you've enjoyed?
Well, this is another series, so I'm trying to get through. I think Marvel films and TV shows have been very poor lately. Thor was very poor. Ant-Man was very poor. I can't even remember what was the last one that just came out. Did another one come out? It's getting to that point now where I'm just like, they're merging into one. Anyway, I've tried to watch Secret Invasion, which has been a slog. I think the Marvel films have been very poor quality. You didn't even get through the second episode or first episode, did you?
No, I can't even review it.
Yeah, I think it's very poor. Poor film. Probably give it, 2.5 stars out of 5. I think even Samuel Jackson seems to be on autopilot, and his character seems to be completely different. I know the whole point. I think he's like phoning in the performance. He's just turned up to give this performance, and it's very lacking. I think the villain's very lacking. He's very one-dimensional. Emilia Clarke is dialing in a stereotypical Emilia Clarke performance. I just don't think it was that. I don't think it's that great. I don't think the acting's been great. Some fantastic actors in there. I just don't think it's their best performances. So 2.5. I would avoid.
I'm done with Marvel series until I find something that I don't know. I watched the second episode of the day and I just couldn't get through the first 5 minutes. It was. You said you like the guy who plays the villain. I found him completely vanilla.
No, I don't. I think he's a great actor who's great in Barbie. I think he's in Barbie. I don't know the guy's name, but he's great in Barbie, and he's going to be in the Bob Marley biop. And what I was saying, he's very versatile in the fact that his character is very one-dimensional in this Secret Invasion. And I actually, from watching Secret Invasion and then seeing, I feel really poor not knowing the guy's name off the top of my head, but from seeing him in Barbie and seeing how great he is in Barbie, just shows you what a waste of an actor via poor writing there is.
Right. Cut.
You went on for a lot longer in your Infinity Pool, yeah.
I thought
Go on, anyway.
I thought I was relatively restrained.
Go on then, next one.
Tension in the pop culture Chillout studio. It's getting a bit warm in here, I think. The Covenant, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal and is directed by Guy Ritchie. I'm a Guy Ritchie apologist. I really enjoyed his King Arthur film, and I didn't like his film. Was it Wrath of Man? Didn't enjoy that, but I generally like his films. I think Gentleman's fantastic.
Yeah,
I think it's his best film for a long time. I think it is. What happens is inspirational. It's a really motivational film. It has great action. It's great. It has great tension.
Covenant.
Yeah. It has brilliant performances from Jake Gyllenhaal and the other lead. I can't remember the guy in it. It is long, and the real best part of the film is probably the last act, which you don't see coming. You kind of think the film's finished.
Yeah. And
then the last act happens, and you go, "Oh, that's brilliant." Watched it with Alex and her family, and it's just a fantastic film. It's free on Amazon. Absolutely watch it. You should definitely watch it.
And then what would you give it?
4.5.
4.5. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm going to say something.
I wasn't that long, was I?
No, it's not too bad. It was better.
I don't think I was that long with Infinity Pool either.
So something I would recommend watching, I think is a must for people. I don't know what I'd give it. I'd give it between a 4 and a 5. I haven't finished 4.5. Yeah. 4.5. No. What I'm deciding is I don't know whether I'm going to give it a 4 or a 5 because I haven't finished season 2.
I'm reviewing this film. I don't know what I want to. It's between a 2 and a 4.
No,
I don't know what.
But right. Once I finish it, then I'll give it either the 4 or a 5. Series. So
right,
The Bear. Nice. It's something I actually only started watching season 1 last week, and I binged it on Disney Plus. Fantastic, very chaotic, and it's about a Michelin star chef who comes back. His brother dies, and he takes over the brother's business, which is like a sort of a rundown family restaurant, and it's about him sort of trying to elevate it alongside a young chef, and it's all the chaos that comes with that, and I think it's brilliant. I think the pacing's fantastic. It's very chaotic, but I would highly recommend it. I think the acting's fantastic in it. I think the dialogue and script is very sharp and slick, and I'd highly recommend it. So once I've finished season 2, at the moment I'm leaning towards a 5. It's very engaging, so I'd probably give it a 5. Really good series. 5,
well done. Good.
And then anything else?
I'm going to watch it as a result of yours. Yeah, my next one is Drive to Survive.
Okay.
Family member of mine has got a new job in Formula 1. And so my parents have encouraged me to watch this. I have no interest in I do now, actually, funny enough.
Yeah.
But I know prior interest in Formula 1. I love sports, but this is just not something that I was interested in. Completely hooked from season 1. I'm on season 2 at the moment, so there's like 6 seasons.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant how they narrativize each of the drivers, humanize them, and then you follow kind of little storylines within the Formula 1 season.
Right.
It is fantastic. 5 out of 5 series.
It's
brilliantly done.
Is that like didn't they do the same for tennis as well? Is it? I think it's the same company do. Is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did a tennis one as well.
Oh, right.
I
would
think
recommend
they've done. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of sporting documentaries. Like I love the All or Nothing series.
Yeah.
Particularly the NFL one where you have the. I think the big difference, if I just quickly may finish this on this point, where there is dialogue during the race / match, that's when I'm completely invested.
Yeah.
And with the NFL ones, it's really good because in the All or Nothing in series and Amazon is that they're talking during the game. You can
Yeah.
When it's with the Tottenham Hotspur and the Arsenal one, All or Nothing, I found it was much less access to the actual games themselves.
Yeah.
It was more about the background, which wasn't as interesting to me. And in the Formula 1 races, you literally hear them talking to the driver's talking, and like swearing and like talking about what they're doing and stuff. It's absolutely brilliant. Like it's really interesting, and it goes into depth. And I know all the drivers, and I think I could actually watch a Formula 1 race and go, oh yeah, Max Verstappen,
and enjoy it. Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo. So 5 out of 5 series, absolutely brilliant.
Okay, my last one.
Yeah, I've got one more as well.
Yeah, my last one is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I saw that. You haven't seen that, but you haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones films, have you?
No.
Raiders.
How on earth is this guy doing a podcast?
I know
that is going to be really popular one day,
and has not seen Raiders. Like
and
Raiders,
any of the
Raiders is probably my favourite film, bar The Dark Knight. Would probably put them on a pedestal, put them on a par.
On a pedestal.
On a pedestal, on a par.
You're putting that Raiders on. You're putting it on a pedestal.
You have to see Raiders. And Raiders is a film from my childhood that I remember watching. To be honest, the Indiana Jones, the original trilogy, very sentimental for me. Brings me back to my childhood watching those films. Watching it, The Last Crusade with my dad as well. So I'm very sentimental towards the original trilogy. I watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull the other night, which is the 4th one that came out in 2008. Actually came out the same summer as The Dark Knight. And I am going to ramble on this because I think it's Indiana Jones is one of my fave.
I don't know why the rules change.
Fran-
Why are the
It
rules
does,
changing for you?
Because I'm the king
Why
of
do the
I'm the king of
rules-
waffle. No, so Indiana Jones, King of the Crystal Skull was definitely a step down from the original trilogy.
I'm
The
gonna Academy Awards song you out.
Yeah.
It's gonna start getting louder.
And I don't think it was as bad as people remember when you watch it again. I think it's a decent film,
Is
but
it the
just
Shia LaBeouf one?
yeah, it's just not on the same level as you are. Literally, Oscar
I'm
musicking
sorry.
me out with I'm Just Ken. Anyway, I think Dial of Destiny is a bit. I enjoyed it, but considering it was James Mangold, I think that's how you say his name. Mangold, the guy who did Logan. I was expecting more of a Logan-esque film in terms of seriousness, and I think
Definitely wasn't
Mangold went more towards trying to recreate the Spielberg style of film.
It's getting louder as you're
I
going.
know. So anyway, if you're an Indiana Jones fan, definitely go and see Dial of Destiny just to see it one more time. Turn the music off. Let me just finish this part. Anyway, Dial of Destiny. If you're an Indiana Jones fan and you appreciate just seeing Harrison Ford one last time, go and see Dial of Destiny.
I'm just kidding.
From a nostalgia point of view, I'd give it 4 out of 5.
Okay.
From my love of Indiana Jones, I'm sure someone who's not as big an Indiana Jones fan would probably give it a 3 maybe, but I'm going to give it a 4. So
Cool.
If you like Indiana Jones, you want to see Harrison Ford crack the whip one last time, definitely go and see it. And this man needs to see Raiders.
I will do. What a cracking start to the new revolutionized
From the Kings of Waffle.
pop culture.
King of Waffles.
Chill out.
Didn't you have one more film?
No, because you destroyed
No,
the timing of the last one. I'll talk about it next time. We're going to have this on various platforms: Twitter, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all over the show. Have a look for us. Pop Culture Chill Out.
And bear with us.
Spotify for your audio only needs. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.